I come from a line of singers, my grandfather, my grandmother, my mother, my grandmother's uncle. My father had a wax disc recording machine in the house, and so he recorded. So in this piece of recording, my grandmother is singing, and I'm going, in the bed. There's this baby's voice. So it was clearly in my ear from the time that I was born.
And what was it like growing up in Oakland?
It was an interesting community. My parents came there because my father was stationed in the Navy during the war, and so they moved from Chicago and discovered the Golden Land, the Golden Medina in California, and really felt like it was the Golden Medina. We were not from, but kept kosher at home. It was Shomer Shabbos when I was growing up, and it was a kind of full aesthetic Judaism. I think I spent 5 days a week in shul studying and later as a teacher myself in that Hebrew school. It was really the source of my Jewish literacy. I was very studious and I was very interested. It was like a parallel education. So when I came back into public school, there was history that I knew that nobody else knew. There was a bigger context for me. I was also involved in Young Judea at the time, and that was a kind of studious, we'd read the Zionist idea, and you'd read the, various socialist, basically socialist Zionist texts. I considered myself a socialist Zionist, and so that's where my the excitement, I think, in my education came in my Jewish education, and that informed the other. My ABD, my unfinished PhD, was on Hebrew and Yiddish writers in the United States, and knowing very little, I felt like I had invented this topic for myself. And once I came to the YIVO, after having finished doctoral orals at Chicago, I sat down again to study through the Max Weinreich Center. So we were sent to, we had access to classes at both at the Max Weinreich Center at YIVO. So I studied with Barbara Kirschenblatt-Gimlet and with Michal Herzog and with Chana Shmeruk and Benjamin Khrushchevsky. And we had access to classes at Columbia. And at JTS, I studied with David Ruskies and with Ezra Mendelsohn and all these great historians. But it was kind of wrong-headed, in which I had already finished a doctoral orals and then sat down for another couple of years to study Yiddish literature and language and culture and East European Jewish history some more. I sunk into the YIVO. I came there first to the summer program. Then I did go back to Chicago, and then I was offered they were great talent scouts in those days, and they had and the YIVO had funding from the National Endowment for the Humanities for a fellows program, and from various Jewish foundations, from the Memorial Foundation for Jewish Culture and the National Foundation for Jewish Culture, and they were offering very generous doctoral stipends. So basically, I was supported between these NEH fellowships and the National Foundation and Memorial Foundation to, sit down and continue to study. But it was quite an exciting time because the faculty was unbelievable. And the resources were amazing, and the seduction of really a generation of young scholars and then artists to a really broad field of work in Yiddish. So I went from looking at academic papers in the papers for my academic work in the archive to exploring the other floors, in which there was the music archive, the sound collection, my colleagues working on Image Before My Eyes, and then I was offered a job. So I began to do this academic work, but then I was offered a day job at some point, and that shifted the balance. In working in the summer program, first I had the opportunity to teach a number of people who were these lovely young people who had come to the summer program. Among them, sitting on the lawn, was Lauren Sklamberg and Alicia Spiegels, taking the Yiddish summer program because they had begun to work in the klezmatics, and they were looking for to learn Yiddish and to learn Yiddish song. So on the other end was Ellie Kelman, who was teaching at the summer program. She taught me Schnirele Perle, and I, walked out onto the lawn and taught Schnirele Perle to Lauren and to Alicia. I learned Alle Brider somewhere, went out to the lawn, taught Alle Brider. And so this wonderful chain of relationships yielded, what we know it yielded. So that was, something that started out, quite simple in a chain of communication that ended up in an altogether other world. That has opened up another world. And then within the building, was Henry and Michael and Josh Waletsky and other people who were more or less of my generation who were doing other kinds of work. And so I began to work with them on music projects. The other thing that happened that was significant, and that brings us to where we're doing this interview, is that I worked closely with Henry at the YIVO, and we had endless conversations about, well, what if we looked at the example of the summer program, which was 5 days a week, 3 hours a day of language class, immersion language class, and then afternoons filled with cultural activities. And we said, okay, so this works for 50, 60, 70 people who are able to devote 6 to 8 weeks of a summer to doing this full time and having an immersion experience. What if, like Henry's experience of old-time music camp or Balkan music camps, what if you took the model and you flipped it, and you had an immersion arts experience, an immersion experience of klezmer music and Yiddish song, and you added to that immersion experience a language class that people would go to for an hour or two during an intensive week. Could we try to do that? And we, started out with 150 people or so, and KlezKamp was launched, and that was 26 years ago. About 12 years ago, the American Jewish World Service established a program that was meant to secure a cultural community in the former Soviet Union. So I remember getting on an Aeroflot plane with Zalman and going to St. Petersburg. And we had no idea who we were going to find there, but because both of our families had come from, parts of our families had come from places in Russia, we were very excited. We walk into these classrooms and meet these squads of people who could have been us. Had our families not emigrated, we would have been these people. And we begin to, to teach. And what the experience was of meeting people with a very thin thread, but not a broken thread altogether. So they were living in the places where this culture had developed. They had some access to it, but it was really weakened. And you felt like you were knitting that thread really delicately back together. What I'd like future generations to know is that this culture belongs to them, that they have a right to take it, to explore it, to create something of their own in it. Jewish culture and Jewish literacy and Yiddish culture and Yiddish literacy is hard come by. It's work, and because we don't live in a Yiddish land, right, in a full environment, for an adult who's smart and fluent and spontaneous, there is an awkwardness to expressing oneself, to feeling competent, to feeling brave about representing this culture. But the only way that it's going to persist is in that courage. And it's a lot to ask of people. But they have every right, and in a way they have a responsibility if they want to take that on. And I wish for them that kind of courage and recklessness, to just throw themselves at it and to own it, because the culture needs them. There will be no Yiddish culture makers after a certain point in time who were born in a fully functioning Yiddish world. And it is a crazy project to try to live and create something of this culture. But there are all kinds of sources for receiving it and for participating. And it's a generous community. So, people will continue to be invited in. The project is hard, but I think that it fits the project of Jewish life. What I love about Yiddish culture, what I love about modern Jewish culture is its Golistikkeit, is its off-balance quality. I think there's an enormous opportunity to live in that modesty, where you're not, culturally dominant, and where the culture needs your energy and needs your desire and needs your participation.